Alimata and I'm with my partner
Noluthando Alimata.
Today we'll be looking at one of the short stories written by Angela Carter, The Bloody Chamber. Let me give you a brief summary about the story. Angela Carter's story was written in 1979, revising the revision of The Bluebird written by Charles. Her idea of writing was to be realistic of hidden ideas behind traditional and social norms that exploit and degrade women. The story is about a young girl who marries the Marquis. She believes that her marriage to the Marquis is her ticket to love and luxury. But through her marriage journey, she discovers that her husband wears a mask to hide her monstrous ways, which are violence and danger. But at the end, Angela Carter psychologically shifts the heroine to be a woman, so the young girl is saved by her mother.
So during the 1970s to 1990s, whenever Angela Carter was reflecting to the Bloody Chamber collection, she claims that her intentions was not to do versions, but was to extract latent content from traditional stories, making it more realistic in order to unhide the realism of traditional fairy tales. And she portrays this through the dark truth, violence, abuse, patriarchal control. And on the other hand, others think that Carter blames the individuals like the Marquis in the story rather than love or fantasy by itself.
So today's question is, how does Carter challenge the traditional fairy tale into a Gothic story which challenges the idea of gender, sexuality, control, and romance?
So if I may ask Alimata, can you explain to the audience what does the Gothic story means?
Okay, Gothic is a genre of friction characterized by elements of fear, horror, often set in an unsettling, isolated location like the castle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, answering the question about how Carter changes the fairy tales into Gothic stories. She extracts the version of The Bluebird written by Charles Perrault, which is a fairy tale that narrates a story of a wife, a young bride, who marries the rich, wealthy, and strong husband who owns the Bloody Chamber. So, in the fairy tale, the Bloody Chamber is a forbidden room, and the young bride disobeys her husband by going to the hidden Bloody Chamber. And then she finds herself almost being murdered. Lucky enough, she's saved by one of her brothers. So the story gives the version or the moral of how disobedience and curiosity can lead into danger and death. Whereas Carter transforms that version, giving us the exact different version.
Exactly. Carter's new version gives a transformation to the Gothic setting. The Marquis castle becomes a symbol of terror. Again, the chamber is full of Marquis' wife's corpse, which shows that it's no more about a man full of violence, but a man full of violence, control, and dark secrets.
And yes, in the story, the protagonist explains how her arrival on the castle discloses scary things. She mentions that the castle is built with the walls which have scary wall pictures. Like one of the picture was the walking star on the rim of the night. She also describes how her bed looked like a funeral coffin which is surrounded by funeral lilies.
The story has themes of patriarchal control, sexuality, and violence. Marquis as an individual symbolizes the toxic patriarchy because he marries the young girl not because he loves her, but because he wants to control her and kill her. For example, he even calls her a virgin protagonist. She looks like an object that he can consume by taking her to a restaurant after breaking her virginity.
Just to edge on the patriarchal power as a theme, the Marquis uses his patriarchal power to make the protagonist to fall in love for him, and he also uses his seductive ways. However, along the story, the protagonist becomes more curious about knowing better her husband. She digs even deeper for his husband's secrets. So, by this, she shows that romantic love is not just based on sexual desires, but it involves knowing your partner better, knowing his transparency, or getting to know his deeper personality or insightful personality of that particular person. Firstly, Carter's perspective questions the reality of marriages that is portrayed on old fairy tales. Secondly, she points out that not every time marriage gives a happy ending, but sometimes marriage becomes a trap which can lead one to death or danger.
In the theme of sexuality, Carter flips the trope by showing us the young girl is saved by a mother who storms in the castle with a revelry. Normally, in all fairy tales, heroines wait for princes to come and save them. Who storms in the castle with a revelry. Normally, in all fairy tales, heroines wait for princes to come and save them. Again, the protagonist falls in love with the pianist. Kat again shows that she does not reject the love, right? But she says that love should be equal and not be controlled.
So, by that, it simply means that Carter does not blame the love or the romance itself. Rather, she blames the individual who uses love and romance to hide or to mask their danger.
Yes.
Oh, okay, guys. So now we're gonna move from the theme that you've mentioned above, which is the patriarchal power, sexuality, and violence. And then we're gonna move our focus to the feminist perspective.
In a feminist perspective, Carter refuses to use the old roles for women such as silent and obedient. Instead, she shows the female agency such as sexuality and survival.
Okay, now guys, just to give you a recap of what we have talked about. So this story is based on the short story written by Angela Carter from the Bloody Chamber Collective. It narrates a story of a young girl who marries the Marquis. So through her marriage, she discovers that the man hid himself under the mask of romance in fantasy. So in the story, we have the theme of patriarchy, we have the theme of violence, and the theme of sexuality. And then there's also the change or the shift of gender roles, as the story portrays a mother who is a female being a hero instead of a male. And again, we also have the perspective, the feminist perspective in the story, which focuses on the empowerment of women, as the author shows that women can also survive on their own and they can also be independent.
To sum up, guys, Angela Carter, The Bloody Chamber, transforms the fairy tales into a gothic unsettling and writes them in a feminist perspective.
Ultimately, The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter is a story which gives us the awakening call, which makes us or pursue us to search more about marriages from the old fairy tale stories into what is happening today or in nowadays.
Thank you guys for staying with us. Please don't forget to like and leave your comments. Bye.
Bye.